Welcome back. In today's episode, we have part 2 of the interview with Marc Mawhinney. We will be discussing today the importance of choosing your niche and why choosing one is not like choosing a spouse or a life partner. Find out the difference.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. You know, so many people have an issue of trying to figure out, what's my niche? How do I, instead of going broad, and I think we all suffer from this, wanting to go broad, we've got a great message. We want the world to know it, and we don't want to exclude anybody. We have a calling. But in order to be effective, we've got to narrow that niche. What do you tell your coaches on how to do that?
Yeah, it's really tough for people because a lot of them feel like they're choosing their life partner, like they're going to be entering into marriage for the next 50 years, and they really freak themselves out that way. And then they're kind of like deer stuck in headlights and they don't know what to do. So the way I recommend to do it is I say don't put pressure on yourself. Have fun. Jot down some ideas, give yourself permission to brainstorm and have fun with it and, play around with some ideas and combining things and stuff like that. And then you get into the research phase. Don't over-research it. Some people go into 2 or 3 years of research, which you don't need, And what's going to happen is your niche or your niche, as my American friends call it, it's going to evolve as time goes on. I've met very few coaches where that hasn't happened. So if you get in doing something, you find you're attracting a certain type of client, you're thinking, man, 80% of my business is actually something else other than I thought it was going to be. Then focus on that, but you won't know until you get started. And that's the problem is most people just don't get started and then they'll never know what works or what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. So I just say jump in and do it. But I'm a big fan of niching down nothing against a lot of coaches that say, I want to help people discover their passion or lead a better life. Something like that's very general and it's not anything that I look at that and I think, why would I hire that person? There's a million people saying that. I need something a little bit more specialized when I hire a coach to know who I'm hiring, what exactly they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a friend of mine that is an SEO expert, and he was doing general SEO for businesses. And he fell into a niche
Yep.
that is just HVAC contractors. That's all he does. But when you Google SEO for HVAC contractors, he's the guy. And if you're one of those contractors, who do you want to hire? The guy that does, everything or just that?
Yeah, general SEO, he might be on page 46 of Google or something like that. What are the odds of people hiring them for that? So what people have to remember, there's 7 billion people in the world. You only need a handful of good clients to have a successful coaching business, or really any business for that matter. So at any time I'm working with 5 one-on-one clients because I can charge enough that I don't have to chase around 20, 30 one-on-one clients. And then I usually have one, sometimes a couple groups going where I work with small groups, 5 coaches at a time. So I might have maybe I'm directly working with 15 people at a time. Out of 7 billion. So I don't need a really broad range there. And actually, I could even niche down further if I wanted to. I work with any coaches across the board or whatever. I could really narrow that down. And I heard Ryan Lee was talking about this recently, where in the past for coaches in baseball, for example, they used to say, okay, I coach kids for baseball, and that was it. And then it got into, okay, I'm coaching pitchers, to help them. And now you have to almost niche down further and say, I'm coaching baseball pitchers specifically on velocity. That's all I'm focusing on, them increasing their velocity. So you can go down a couple levels as well, as long as you don't go down too far. So the example I use with coaches, you wouldn't want to say, okay, I'm a coach who works with left-handed dentists in Boise, Idaho, named Bob, who's recently divorced and they're selling their business in the next 6 to 12 months. That's probably niche down a little too far. And you might have one dentist named Bob that fits that. And, you probably don't want to put all your eggs in that basket. So.
Yeah, my first business that I started eventually turned into a multi-million-dollar business, and it just had one type of client, private equity firms. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some booming businesses now. I've had guests on the podcast, Chris Barrow in the UK, who's a dental coach, and that's a booming niche right now. So it's not even just business coaches. Now there's coaches, dental coaches, and you see this in even more obscure niches. I had someone on the show that was a government contract officer coach. When somebody was bidding on government contracts, he coaches you on that. And now you see some of the more of those coaches popping up. So it's really cool.
Yeah, there's an unlimited need or niches out there. Just
definitely.
Find one. And I like what you said also, that over time it evolves, because it really does.
You won't know unless you get out there and start doing it. So some coaches I know get into something like a coach, for example, wanted to get into working with people who are going through cancer and stuff. And that's pretty deep, pretty heavy stuff. And I remember that she decided that she didn't want to do it every day. She was just couldn't handle it, but she wouldn't have known that until she got out there and did it, and if you want to help people, you're perfectly set up for a coach, but you have to decide who you're going to help. And it can't be any of the 7 billion people in the world. You can't be afraid to cut some people off.
That leads into the next question that I had. So often I find coaches with that big heart, that mission, that desire to help others. And I absolutely admire that. And that's a big part of who I am and what I do. But many times the coaches still have some things lingering in themselves that they haven't quite figured out, gotten straight, gotten in congruency with. What do you tell coaches when you just see that there's a disconnect between what they're saying and what they're living?
Well, this goes to the unfiltered part. I'll tick off a few people, but not everybody should be a coach.
I agree.
So just like I shouldn't be an NBA player or a surgeon, and I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who watch, maybe they see Tony Robbins' newish documentary on Netflix, I Am Not Your Guru, and they really enjoyed Tony Robbins' documentary. Okay, you can like that, but does that mean suddenly that you're set up to be a coach? And I see some people, again, I'm by no means perfect, don't get me wrong. I'd be the last person to say that I'm perfect, but I see a lot of people that should not be coaching, because I'm thinking, man, you are really messed up and you're out there asking for 5K or 10K or whatever for this. You figure out your own stuff first and then get into it. So a lot of people look at it, they get drawn in by the Facebook ads that they see that they can make 7 figures in a month working 5 minutes a day as a coach. It's easy as pie. So they got the dollar signs in their eyes. And if that's your only driving force or your motivator, you probably should stay out of it. It's not a get rich quick scheme. And you and I talked about this when you were on my show, when we were talking about your rates, which are great rates, nice, juicy, high rates. Now, you earn them. But you had mentioned to me that despite being a coach for not that long, you had 16 years of experience, and toiled and went through all that. So you've earned your stripes there, and that's why you can charge what you're charging. You didn't just roll out of bed and say, I'm going to charge 30K for 6 months and, not be able to back it up. And I think, unfortunately, too many people roll out of bed and see it as a get rich quick as opposed to what it is. It's not a get rich quick.
Yeah. And, regardless of what you do, any business that I have, I offer 100% guarantee. When I have my manufacturing company, you could buy my equipment, use it in your shop, and 30 days later return it for a full refund. How did I do that? One, I had to make sure that I had a great product, and I took care of the customers after the sale. I had one customer in 5 years return the product because the color didn't match. So they returned it, switched out the color. They were happy. Now I have used equipment. Now I've got a little bit of a quandary, right? I can't sell it as new. So did I take a financial loss on that? No. So I took that product and I marked it down to my cost. And I resold it to someone as used equipment. And they were thrilled. They got a 40% discount on this stuff that was practically brand new. Now I have 2 happy clients. But people get caught up in, I couldn't do that. I couldn't coach someone and offer a refund. Why not?
And And how many extra clients have you gotten too? That's you've probably gotten a lot of extra clients you may not have just because of that. So
yeah. And one thing I want to go back to on the niche as well. I think asking your customers and your prospects and those people that you have a reach to, ask them what's going on in their life, what's going on in their business, what is their biggest struggles, what are the issues. So often we create a product and we go to the market and go, hey, look what I have, buy over here, as opposed to going, there's a mentor of mine, Keith Cunningham. Love this guy. If you don't know him, look him up on online. Brilliant business guy. And he said, you want $1 billion business idea? Here it is. Go out, figure out what people want, and give it to them. But he goes, you fools are running around, and what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I've come up with a great product. Now I want you to buy it.
Yeah, backwards. Well, it's like Gary Halbert, the great copywriter, had the saying, feed a starving crowd. People can Google that and read that story. And then actually Robert Corey wrote a book on that. And that's the whole theme behind that. You find out what the crowd's starving for, and then you feed it to them as opposed to trying to guess. So that's a great point.
Yeah. And, and I even today, I find myself, wondering sometimes, like, why did I just create that content? Why am I not asking more questions of my audience?
Because it's too easy. We humans want to overcomplicate things.
Well, and we all love ourselves, right? We all love the products that we produce. It's like, this is brilliant. Never forget. I did a piece of content recently, and I was really proud of this. I was like, I love this. And I went to my team. I'm like, what do you guys think? And they're like, it's okay. I'm like, no. You guys don't understand. You're not understanding this. I need you to get in tune. I mean, this is like brilliance. And they're like, that's okay. And I'm like, okay, so you guys just didn't. So I went to some other people. I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, that's okay. But I really like what you did about, I didn't do a furry puppy video, but I really liked the furry puppy video. It was like, really? That over this? So you never know what your audience wants unless you ask.
Exactly. And yeah, people don't ask enough. I do a fair number of surveys, sending people to online surveys and stuff, but I should even be doing more of it because I've had some clients get some things that we wouldn't have guessed, right? Just a simple answer on that online survey, and then bang, there's your program idea or something. So important.
I think that's so important because what you just said, so many times we think that what we're going to share isn't really that meaningful, but it's exactly what that client, that prospect, that person needs at that moment. You mentioned the I'm Not Your Guru video with Tony. I've been a senior leader for Tony for the last 13 years, and I was actually in the movie as well. I have a 5-second cameo. So you wouldn't believe the number of emails and comments and things I get back from participants on my team that say, Thor, you made the biggest difference in my life when you told me what you told me day 5 of the event. Now, I've worked with so many people. I sometimes I don't know what I've said, but it's so interesting because I'll turn around and I'll say, what did I say? They said, you said to me, you looked in my eyes and said, you know the right path to take. That was it. It was like, that was the words of wisdom. It's the smallest thing sometimes that we say that can make a huge impact on people. So never underestimate what you have to say.
Well, we're around ourselves all the time, right? We're looking at ourselves in the mirror, and we're pretty boring to ourselves, so we don't think it's anything profound. But then there's somebody that, like you said, you come along at the right time, and they hear something for the first time, and then their eyes light up, and they have an aha moment. And I think that's what we have to remember is that just because we've seen something, you've probably done that speech or that workshop, whatever, hundreds of times, but that's the first time that person's going through it, and they're going to get something that they've never heard before.
Absolutely. Every peak performer that has ever lived or will live does one thing extremely well. They know how to take their ideas and execute on them. Ideas and knowledge are not power, but the ability to execute on them, that is real power. If you consider yourself a peak performer and really want to take your game to the next level and truly master the science of execution, I would like to send you some information about our upcoming event, Business Execution Summit. Simply take your phone and text the word BE Summit, one word, to 41411, And I'll send you some additional information on how to master the most important skill you will ever acquire for your life or your business. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day. That concludes part 2 of our interview with Marc Mawhinney. Please tune in later this week for part 3.